For the last 6 months or so, Donald Trump has been telling anyone who will listen about the polls and how they indicate America is not only behind him, but this nation will elect him president of these United States without question. However, polls, like opinions, are in constant change. And the Donald has become silent about polls of late for a good reason. This as the Russians don't seem to be shy at all about their recent alleged government-ordered hack of Democratic files concerning the presumptive GOP nominee. What's their game, and will anything that leaks to the public really help or hinder the bombastic candidate? Let's turn this back to the major matter at hand, the killing of 49 people in Orlando by someone who was either following the internet ramblings of killers or someone who hated gays and merely wanted to go out in bursts of glory, seeking to commit suicide by cop and put his name in the annals of infamy. The issue is before us again, the profiling of Muslims, the danger of that, and ignoring the radicals. Your phone calls and comments are up for grabs the entire hour. All you have to do is have a take. Get on the line right now. 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629, and await your turn at being the focal point of this program. I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hardline for Wednesday, June 15th, 2016.
I think the polls are testament. You see what's happening, and now they say I'm going even higher. So I'm leading in every poll, the local and the national polls, leading and by substantial margins, and I'm leading in the Hispanic vote. We just had polls come out today from Iowa, where I'm leading. You saw the new poll in New Hampshire, where I'm leading big. A poll just came out in Florida, where I'm leading big. Georgia, Texas, I mean, all over the place. And in a head-to-head poll, they just did that. I beat her by 5 or 6 points. I love it. I've won many polls, as you know, against Hillary Clinton directly, and I'm the only one that's going to beat her.
There is no doubt. From the early stages of his presidential campaign, Donald Trump had a good portion of the American people in his pocket. The polls were his allies. And as his popularity numbers increased, it only helped him pound his competition into submission, using the various polls as a verbal 2x4 that helped cement his status as the Republican choice. However, as the smart person who follows politics understands, polls change. It's the ebb and flow of any campaign. And when they do show substantial shifts, there are always two responses. One side that points out the campaign is far from over and numbers at this stage mean nothing, or the side that points to shifting digits as a portent of things to come and how it will work in their favor. Donald Trump isn't talking about the polls very much at the moment, though maybe he should be hammering away at the new Reuters daily tracking poll, showing that after the Orlando shooting, his numbers are improving against Hillary Clinton. Those who follow his clarion call for a ban on all Muslim immigration until the matter of radical Islamic terror is under control gave him a boost, trailing Clinton by almost 13 points on Sunday, making up ground, trailing by 8.5 on Monday. Good news for Donald Trump, until the rest of the story is told. The latest ABC News Washington Post poll shows 7 out of 10 Americans see Trump in an unfavorable light after Orlando. The NBC News SurveyMonkey poll out Tuesday shows Clinton's lead increasing to 7 points over Trump. And the latest Bloomberg Politics poll shows Hillary Clinton with a monstrous 12-point lead over Trump. Let us then seek to make sense of all the numbers and the issues, but not before reminding our viewers that you need to get on the line right now. Be a part of this conversation. 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-639-7629, and you will interact with our guest. He is the veteran political strategist and author. His current must-read for those educating themselves in political punditry is Armageddon, How Trump Can Beat Hillary. The Newsmax political analyst who makes no bones about his support for Donald Trump. Welcome, Dick Morris, back to the Hardline. Dick, always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you. Now, with all those numbers we've just talked about, should Donald Trump be concerned?
No, I think that what's happening here is just simply the same bounce that Donald had 4 weeks ago, when Cruz withdrew and it became clear that he would be the Republican nominee. Now Hillary, in effect, has clearly won the Democratic nomination, and she's going to be the Democratic nominee. And you always get a bounce when that happens because of members of your own party that were against you, but then became undecided and now are for you, because you clearly are the nominee. We're going to have to let the dust settle a little bit to see what the real basic head-to-head in the race is. But I do believe that Orlando is having an enormous impact on this, because clearly Trump's approach and Trump's rhetoric is harder-edged and more aggressive than the sort of bureaucratic response I think Hillary gave. And Ed, I have a question for you. In your intro to this segment, you said focus, not profile Muslims, but focus on radicals. What did you mean?
I think I made it very clear. Donald Trump has talked about not allowing Muslim immigration into this country until we get, in his own words, the radical Muslim issue under control. He said that many times.
Yeah, but that's focusing on radicals. The whole idea here is that you can't, at this point, tell radicals from regular Muslims who have lived in other countries. And there's no real way of profiling them because you don't have enough information. And Trump favors a cessation of all Muslim immigration until we get a better handle on how to deal with it. And I believe that he also is correct in pointing out that the failure to be aggressive against Islamic terrorists and arrest them when you find them in your sights, and the terror that I think our policemen have about going overboard on that, costing them their careers and their pensions, is letting people like this monster in Orlando go free.
1-877-Newsmax if you want to join us. So then let's talk about Orlando again, because you have mentioned it. According to the CBS News poll, the majority of Americans also disapprove of Donald Trump's response in the wake of what happened in Orlando. Now, the same poll gave us positive results for the president and for Hillary Clinton in the way that they handled it. What about those who say that, and you even alluded to it just a few moments ago, that the way Donald Trump handled the whole situation in Orlando was just simply wrong?
Oh, no, I didn't say that.
No, but you alluded to the fact that perhaps he didn't handle it properly. So I'm then saying, is it possible that he was just wrong? I'm asking your opinion.
No, Ed, you misunderstood me if you thought I said that.
Okay.
I think Trump handled it perfectly, and I think he will continue to do that. I think that he's going to gain ground enormously as people compare the way the two of them are handling it. Hillary is handling it with just the same level of political correctness and the bureaucratically hidebound response that stays within the limits of our current policy. Whereas Trump is really talking about transcending it. And a ghastly murder like this just makes clear how important Trump's position on this thing is. I wrote a column the other day that while everybody is telling Trump, narrow the gap, heal the breach in the Republican Party, I wrote a column that said, widen the breach, exacerbate the conflicts, go after the likes of Mitt Romney. Because in going after them and emphasizing that difference, he will attract large numbers of voters who agree with his critique of the Republican Party, and that's why they're not members of it.
All right, let's go ahead and get to the phones. 1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-Newsmax. Carl is in Dolores, Colorado, one of my favorite states in the Union. Carl, I think you agree with many people who say that the polls, it's just much too early for them to really make a huge difference at this time, correct?
That is absolutely correct. Let's get to the convention first. We haven't even gotten the people in as candidates yet. So, but I love it. Dick, where's that big chair? I haven't seen that big chair in a while. Also,
I spent houses and chairs for this.
Ed, everybody's missing the big picture. You went over to this Orlando also, not just on the polls, but let's look at the big picture. It's not just Muslims that are a problem in this country. It's all the haters of America that are coming into this country. People burning flags, burning American flags and waving their own flag. Let's look at the big picture. We need to get in control of this immigration, which Trump wants to do, and that's really going to be the selling point of this whole thing, because it isn't just Muslims. It's all kinds of people from other countries that come in here wanting to change our ways. They should see it as a privilege to come here.
Carl, you are espousing what many people feel and why Donald Trump has been very successful to many groups. I appreciate your call. Dick, let me ask you very briefly before I take another call, in your experience as a political strategist, when you see polls at this point before we hit a November election, what kind of changes would you expect by November?
Oh, they're going to be very significant, but I think the polls themselves are important all along because it gives you a feeling of the evolution of the public's mindset. As I said, you're seeing now the reaction to Hillary being the Democratic candidate. But let me talk about the point that your caller made. Particularly among the Latino vote, there is a large segment of opinion, in fact, a majority of it, particularly among those Latinos who were born here, who say, look, we have seen in our own native countries the byproduct of these Obama-like policies of financial giveaways, huge debt, enormous promises, exploding crime, and we came here to the United States to avoid it. And now we worry that the Democrats are going to recreate the same conditions that forced us from our native countries. And that's a kind of spin in answer to that question of people who come here and denigrate our country. One of the really important strengths that Trump has is people who come here and celebrate our country and want it to continue to be the way it is and the country that attracted them in the first place.
Dick, let me also get your take on another poll, because let's face it, we talk about the numbers a lot. Politico has compiled polling data in what it calls the battleground states, the states likely to determine the election in November. Of 11 states, according to Politico, Hillary Clinton holds a lead in 8, including major swing states like Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Donald Trump only leads in 2, Iowa and Colorado. No data given for Nevada. How much of a concern, in less than 60 seconds or so that we have left, should this be a concern to Donald Trump?
Not this week. Next week, the week after. Right now, as I said, you're just getting the reaction to her winning the nomination. And you have to wait out these bumps before you get anything significant. In the state-by-state polling before this, I was struck by how competitive Pennsylvania is. And if you win Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania, you don't got to win anything else.
Let's get one last comment in here. Joanne in Orlando, Florida, who also believes that the polls are not relevant yet. Joanne, I have 30 seconds for you. Please go ahead.
Well, I don't think they're realistic. There's a lot of silent voters here that, because of the hype of how Donald Trump presents himself, they're a little embarrassed to say, well, I'm voting for him, and so they keep silent. But, you know, as a former, I'm from Buffalo, so I guess New Yorkers don't consider me a New Yorker, but I'm used to the brashness. I'm used to the sarcasm in their speech. So if you take him literally and you're from a different part of the country, you're not going to get it. Like when he said congratulations, he was saying that sarcastically. I could hear it in my mind because I'm originally from there. So a lot of people misinterpret what he says. He gets a lot of bad press because of it. And they're just keeping quiet on who they're voting for. But you're going to be surprised when the voting comes around.
We are all out of time, unfortunately. I want to remind everybody the book once again that everybody needs to get in order to get ready for the election coming up in November. Armageddon, How Trump Can Beat Hillary. It is set for release on June 28th. Available now for pre-order on Amazon and other places as well. Dick Morris, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us, my friend. The immediate blame for the Orlando massacre, radical Islamic terror. But let's dig into that next on The Hardline.